everybody. Welcome to the Bottom Line Live. Today, we're going to talk about, I know it's everybody's favorite subject that I talk about pretty much every Thursday. We're going to talk about bookkeeping. We're going to talk about bookkeeping and taxes and deadlines because we are in the thick of it. I don't know if you guys know this, but January is the busiest month of the year for bookkeeping, for bookkeepers. The IRS gave us all these deadlines, and I think they're just a little cray-cray. If anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. If you're in my Facebook Live or if you're in the Zoom, we'll answer all your questions. Now's the time, because if you are a business owner, if you don't have a bookkeeper, you are expected to get all this stuff done, and you might not know that. And if you do have a bookkeeper, you want to make sure that they get it done on time. So let me make sure this is in my Facebook correctly. I say I'm tech savvy, but you know, I don't know everything, unfortunately. I wish I did. Wouldn't that be great? Okay. So the first thing I want to talk about, and I bring this up very often, is 1099s. So all of the 1099s are due for January 31st. Now, some software is going to tell you that you have to, if you're e-filing, you have to do it by the 27th. So we literally have like 2 weeks here, guys. We've been working on collecting W9s for our clients' 1099s for the last couple of months, honestly, maybe even longer in some cases, that we started, you know, going through and saying, hey, we need these W9s, we need these W9s so we can file for you. And what does that mean? I'm going to go into it a little bit. I've probably gone into it many times. So if you've heard this, you know, fine, but I'm going to go with a number of times over equals what we want. So a 1099 is due for any vendor that you paid for services. I had someone recently tell me, no, I don't have to pay them because they're a company. Or sorry, not I don't have to pay them. I don't have to 1099 them because they're a company. And I do want to say that that is incorrect. If you have had anybody tell you that, or you've gotten any TikTok advice that says you don't have to send a 1099 if they're a company. The actual data on it is you don't have to send a 1099 if they are incorporated. So if they're an LLC, taxed as an S corporation or a C corporation, or if they're straight up S corporation or C corporation, you do not have to issue them a 1099. But if they have an LLC that is not taxed as a corporation, or their sole proprietorship, that is called Joe's cleaning business or Sally's bookkeeping business, or, you know, Bob's IT company, that doesn't mean that they wouldn't need a 1099. They would still need a 1099 unless they're a corporation. There are certain things against this where, for instance, if you paid a law firm, regardless of whether they're a corporation or not, they still need a 1099. If you paid any medical profession as a business expense, regardless of, even if they're a giant hospital, you still have to give them a 1099. When do I see this mostly is, let's say for our clients that are law firms, sometimes they hire doctors as expert witnesses, or sometimes they send their you know, clients to a doctor or a hospital to get checked out for their lawsuit. And in that case, we have to 1099 the hospital or the doctor. Or let's say you have a contracting company, a general contractor, and they send an employee to the chiropractor. In that case, we would have to 1099 the chiropractor. So keep that in mind. What other cases would you not have to 1099 a service-based vendor? If they were paid by credit card or a third-party payment method. For instance, if you paid them by PayPal, Venmo, or one of these other ones, or credit card, but if it was PayPal or Venmo, it has to be the business version. Like if you paid them, which I know a lot of people do this, PayPal friends and family, because they don't charge you a fee that way, you have to send a 1099 because that's considered same as cash. If you used the PayPal business one where they took out fees for you to pay it, then they're going to send, then PayPal will send the 1099. Same with Venmo and Cash App. They all have business versions and personal versions. And most of the time I see my clients using the personal versions because they don't want to pay the fees. And I mean, I don't mind either way. You guys do what you're going to do, but you do have to send the 1099 because sending a payment by a personal version of Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, whatever is considered same as cash or check. So you still have to send out 1099. But if you paid them by credit card, you don't. Or if you used a business version of a third party payment processor, then you would not have to send out a 1099. Now, most of your software, like for instance, if you're paying, or rather if you're running a 1099s through QuickBooks Online, it will do that for you. It will sort out how they were paid and whether or not they need to be sent out a 1099. Now, just to quickly go over what type of industries need a 1099 and which ones don't, because sometimes people get confused on this. It's not just the people that you hired as 1099s or contractors. If you have a marketing company working for you that is not a corporation, they would get a 1099. A branding company would get a 1099. If you have a person that does repairs to your office or your home office, not your house, but your home office, they would get a 1099, again, unless they're a corporation. If you have a bookkeeper or accountant that is not a corporation, they would get a 1099. If you hired a lawyer, they would get a 1099 regardless of their corporation or not. Now, we are talking about the threshold, right, which is over $600 or over. So if they were paid under $600, then you would not need to send them a 1099. So let's keep that in mind as I say all these things. And some things will be changing for the 2023 tax year, but right now we are filing for the 2022 tax year. And so all those things are staying the same. Okay, I've done lots of talking about 1099s, and I probably will continue to do so because, again, they are due by the end of the month. So if you're a business owner or a bookkeeper, or just helping someone, keep in mind that you have to finish all the bookkeeping from December so that you know what each person was paid, because these 1099s need to be accurate. And then, so let's say if you're like us and you have, you know, we have about 150 companies that we're doing bookkeeping for, that means that we have to finish all the bookkeeping by basically now. We have the first 2 weeks of January to finish that, and then we have the last 2 weeks of January to file all the 1099s, because it's a lot of work for each one. So to map everything correctly and make the software work correctly and all that. So we are requesting from all our clients to get the W9s to send out the 1099s basically by the 15th, which is in a few days. So if you're a business owner and you're doing it yourself, you know, totally fine. Get those W9s, get it sent out by the 31st. We have a lot to do, a lot of them to file by the 31st. So we are trying to start now, and we're trying not to file any at midnight on the 31st because it's not that much fun, guys. I've done it many years in a row. I don't want to keep doing it. The more clients I get, the more 1099s there are. And I want to have more clients, but I still want to be able to sleep. Because how about that? Okay, so what's the next thing that is due by January 31st is all of your payroll taxes, your W2s, everything. Now, we have some companies get told by their CPAs that they only need to run a payroll once a year, which is true. Once you know what your profit is, especially if you're a small company, you can just run the payroll once a year. But keep in mind that that does need to be done by January 31st, because that's when all the W2s are due. Obviously, if for some reason that doesn't happen, you can still, you know, file amendments and do stuff before your taxes, but it starts taking longer and longer. If your payroll wasn't done correctly, like for instance, we have a client who has his payroll being done through, I don't know, probably ADP, but they didn't add his children that is supposed to be on payroll or something like that. And so we end up, oh, hi, Evan. Evan gave me a comment with a lot of money like this. So, and I agree because we save you guys money. So I have this client, right, who has this payroll being done by another company, but it wasn't done correctly. And because it didn't get fixed before the W2s were automatically created, all this, the payroll software, they automatically create W2s by December 31st. So if you didn't get all the data in there correctly, now you have to file an amendment. There are, depending on what state you're in, there are a lot of forms to amend. And so it can take a lot of hours to do that. So if we have payroll amendments that we're doing, they have to get done by January 31st, because that's when all the W2s are due to get sent out. So we're doing all that. If you are a business owner and you know that you have to run a payroll because you, like, for instance, if you are an S corporation and you're the only one on payroll and you know you haven't done it yet, you got to do it right now. You got to ask your CPA or accountant or whoever normally helps you. And if you can't, if they're not able to help you and you haven't done it on time, do reach out to us. But realize that we're, probably going to charge you rush rates because it is towards the end of the month and we have a lot of people reaching out to us asking us. And Celeste, my bookkeeping specialist, is I'm dreaming in 1099s and she's dreaming in payroll. She's my payroll specialist. I think I said bookkeeping specialist, but payroll specialist. She's literally dreaming in payroll and payroll amendments and W2s because she has to get all that done on time. It's much easier and more cost effective if you're using a payroll service that you get everything done by December 31st, because after that, we're in amendment land and it's a lot more work. Even if you're doing a manual payroll, it's better to get it done by December 31st and just have it done correctly. If you don't, then fine, we can get it done by January 31st. But it's a lot of extra work to do it in January, and then, even more to do it later in the year. Because you do have to get it done fully before you file your taxes. So if you're filing your taxes for March 15 as an S corporation, then it definitely has to be done by then. And oftentimes you want to know, if you are just running an annual payroll, you want to know what your profit was so that you can know what you should pay yourself payroll, because you need to pay yourself a reasonable payroll. And sometimes that's going to be based on your profit. It obviously can't be more than your profit. It has to be a reasonable salary. If your profit was 100,000, you could probably reasonably say that your salary is 50,000 or 60,000. If your profit was $2 million, then you could probably reasonably say that your salary was 100 or 120,000. What would you be paying someone else for that position? But you do need to know what your profit was, which is another reason why you have to have the bookkeeping done. So all the bookkeeping has to get done in January right away. Even for our clients that we're doing monthly, we have to do December and get December wrapped up in January ASAP. And we have, like I said, 150 companies. So it's a lot of work to get it all done super fast. The ones that we're doing quarterly, same thing. We got to catch up the last quarter, get it done. So everyone's like, this is the biggest month of the year for bookkeepers. And it's so fun because it happens right after the holidays. So we might not hear from our clients for a few weeks because they're off doing stuff for holidays. And all of a sudden, January 2nd, man, my emails I've been at like probably 150 emails a day since the beginning of the month of people needing things and us needing things from them to get stuff done. Okay, what happens if you, just to go back to 1099s, because I didn't bring this up. What happens if you don't file a 1099 that you're supposed to? If you were to get caught, if you were to get reported, you could be held liable for that individual or company's self-employment taxes. So you might never get caught. The IRS, just like people put things in their taxes and maybe the IRS never notices. But if you did get caught, you could be liable for that company's self-employment taxes that they didn't pay because you didn't report a 1099. And that, I haven't seen that happen, but we know that the IRS recently hired 79,000 or whatever the number is, new IRS auditors. So these things could start happening. What happens if you file a 1099 late? You get a late fee. Depending on how late you are, I think it could be up to $450 per 1099 you file late. So you definitely want to file them on time. I am trying not to stay up until midnight of the 31st. So we're going to start filing now on whatever W-9s we have in, we're going to file. But if we don't have them, we're going to file with what you've given us so far. And if some are late, that's on you. The best way to get this handled is before you pay a new vendor, get a W-9 from them. Then you're just safe and you don't have to stress about it at the end of the year. And I will say that until I am blue in the face. Get the W-9s before you pay them, because like I run into this with, let's say, general contractors, contracting companies. They go, oh, I can't find the guy anymore. I can't get him. I hired him for a job in March. Now we're almost a year later in January. I don't even know how to get a hold of him. Okay, well, when he wanted something from you, which was money, that would have been the time to get him to fill out a W-9. Just saying, that's the way to roll. Okay, what else is due for January 31st? In a lot of states, sales tax. We don't do a lot of sales tax because we're mostly working with service-based industries, such as, doctors, lawyers, marketing companies, things like that. So they don't have a lot of sales tax, but we do have some. Like, let's say we have a dentist, but he also sells toothbrushes. So he has to pay the sales tax on the toothbrushes. Many states, I would venture to say most states, the sales tax is also going to be due by January 31st. Now, I highly recommend, if you don't have your sales tax being handled already, to check out TaxJar. TaxJar is a sales tax software. Sales tax has gotten complicated to the point where it really doesn't make sense to try to just go directly on the state sales tax website. The websites are complicated, and knowing what your nexus is, like let's say you're selling e-commerce and you're selling in a specific state and you live in a specific state, which states do you actually have to pay sales tax in and which ones do you not? It's gotten to the point where I can't even keep track of it all. So we now only will do sales tax using a sales tax software, just like we pretty much only do payroll using a payroll tax software, because there's so many taxes that you have to know and they constantly change, that you want a software to keep track of it all, especially if you're like us and you're doing payroll and sales tax for multiple states. We have clients in over half the states in the US, and each one has their own website for filing and their own rules and their own percentages of how it works and their own rules on Nexus. And again, Nexus is what states are in cahoots that you have to pay sales tax in all of those states that are connected with the one that you sold in, right? I'm explaining it very simply. Or the next to the one where you live, the one that you sold in, the person is living, there's all these different rules. So I highly recommend check out TaxJar. If you're a bigger company, check out Avalara. They are probably even better than TaxJar, but they are very pricey. So you definitely, if you have a really big e-commerce company and you don't have your sales tax, dialed in the way you want it to, Avalara. If you have a smaller company or you're just starting out, TaxJar. I think TaxJar has like $100 a month kind of a subscription plan. And I recently had someone tell me he wasn't even making that much money on his e-commerce, and now he has to start paying for bookkeeping, and now he has to start paying for sales tax software and all these things. And I basically told him, yeah, you do. So the idea is make a lot of money on that, because e-commerce or, selling products has a lot of parts to it, a lot of things you have to pay for. But you know what? Being a business owner costs you money. As soon as you're making money, now you have to be an S Corp or a C Corp, and now you have to be on payroll, and now you have to pay for a bookkeeper. So just realize that you do have to pay for those things. They do dig into your profit margin, so you have to make enough to cover those things. You can't ever be at bare minimum. You always have to be at abundance, because there's always more things and unexpected things that you don't know about. As a business owner, you started your business to sell widgets or to help people, with consultation, or you're a dentist and you didn't expect that all of a sudden you were going to have a stack of paperwork from the IRS and that there's sales tax and property tax and all these different things. I know you didn't expect it. I didn't expect it when I started my company, and I even knew that all those things existed because I own a bookkeeping firm and I've been doing bookkeeping for 20 years. And I have employees in many different states, and each state has these payroll taxes, and I get like 15 letters a month from different states telling me different things. And I know it's complicated, guys. I seriously give all of my notices to my payroll specialist because I'm like, wait, what's this one telling me to do now? Like, and I do this stuff for a living, and I still know that they get complicated because they're all telling you different things, and you have to register here and file here. We just got a notice from the payroll companies that there were certain states that, I don't remember exactly, they owe too much money, so they're just going to decide to charge everyone more in one of the taxes, and they just took it out of our clients' bank accounts, and there's literally nothing we could do about it. And they only told us about it a few days ago. So these things happened. You have to plan for the unexpected. You have to always be in abundance. You have to, prepare for the worst and plan for the best. Now, here's another thing about payroll and payroll taxes to know about. If we file a payroll for you, let's say you're doing an annual payroll and you're going to do it and you're going to file it now, you can even take, it's not that you have to come up with all the money. You can say, hey, I have this much profit. I paid myself, 100,000 in profit, and basically it went into my personal bank account. So we're going to say 60,000 of it is reasonable salary. We're going to turn that into salary, but realize what you do have to pay right away is the payroll taxes on that. And the payroll taxes, depending on what state you're in, are probably around 30%. So let's say it's, $50,000. What is 30% of that? Do I want to do that off the top of my head? No, I don't. But let's say it was $100,000 to make it simple. So 30% of that is going to be 30,000. Okay, so 50,000, 30% of that is going to be about 15,000. And it's going to be somewhere between 30 and 40%. So it could be like 15, 18,000. And you do have to have that, because as soon as we file those taxes with the payroll forms and the payroll taxes, the government's going to come in and ask for that money right away. Like, you have maybe till the end of the month to pay it, depending on which state, different things. So you do have to be prepared for that. And if you don't pay it right away, now they're going to be charging you late fees, penalties, interest, all of that stuff. So be prepared. Definitely have money set aside. Have your 6 months of reserves. I know not everybody has that yet. I'm building mine, but we have to be abundant, guys, because as soon as you start making money, it costs money. The IRS takes money, the states take money, everything has taxes. So you can't think that all the money you have is all the money you have. You have to realize that you only get to keep like 60 to 70% of it. And you need to make sure you're putting aside a certain percentage towards savings and set asides for taxes, set asides for growth, set asides for emergencies, so that no matter what happens, like supposedly we're running into a recession, I hope that doesn't affect any of my clients or any of the businesses. I hope that doesn't affect you guys at all. But if you're going to be prepared, the best way to be prepared is to have money set aside. So if you need it, you have it. Okay. Those are some of the main deadlines that you're going to run into: 1099s, W2s, payroll taxes, sales tax, and you do need your bookkeeping done in order to calculate all of those things, all the numbers for those things. So all of those things have to be done ASAP. It all has to be filed and done and completed with a pretty bow on it by January 31st. And if you're an S corporation, your taxes are going to be due by March 31st or March 15th. And you can file for an extension. A lot of companies do, a lot of CPAs do, because they really don't have a lot of time between the time that the bookkeeping is finished and the 1099s are filed and when the taxes are due. So a lot of them are going to file for extensions, but you do want to have all your books ready and your ducks in a row so your CPA can file and can give you your tax estimate and tell you what you owe. Or hopefully, even better, maybe you don't owe anything at all because you've been putting aside money, or you've been, paying the IRS exactly what they want you to pay and not a penny more. because we don't want to lend the IRS money either. They don't pay interest. So keep your money, but pay them exactly what's due and not a penny more. And yeah, I hope you all have as fun of a January tax season as I do. If you need any help, do reach out. We can help you. We're probably going to charge you a lot because we have only 2 weeks to get everything done, but reach out. We can help you. You can comment on here. You can email me at maya@solvencynow.com. You can go to my website and do my contact at solvencynow.com. You can reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, even TikTok if you want, under Solvency Now Bookkeeping or under Maya Weinrab, and we will help you because we are here to help. But let's get it done now so that we're not in a panic. And the longer you wait, honestly, the more it's going to cost, because you're going to end up doing amendments and all these different manual filings and things that are going to cost even more money the longer you wait. So let's do it now. Let's get it done. Let's get you organized. Let's make it so that you have a stress-free life. Like, you know, my mission statement, I've said this lots of times, is complete and perfect financial records for your peace of mind as a business owner. So let's get you peace of mind. All right. Thank you so much for listening to me rant about January deadlines. And I will see you next Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bottom Line Live, where I'll probably tell you more about January deadlines. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.